This is your corrective exercise with bands. We're going to come down to the floor, lay like a pencil, and we are going to start with ankle circles. We are going to be here for 4 minutes, and I want you to try your best to stay in the movement for the solid 4 minutes. We're going to have ankle circles, 1 minute in one direction, 1 minute in the other direction. Then we're going to do flex and point. Then we're going to move from the hip and go down and up with the hip. We're going to try really hard to stay there for 4 minutes. Okay, bring your right leg into tabletop, shin parallel to the floor, and then start circling your ankle in one direction. It doesn't matter, either direction is fine to start with. And you can have your arm relaxed, like I'm just kind of gesturing with you. And we want to make sure that this leg is in a 90-degree hip fold as well as a 90-degree knee bend. And we want to keep our opposite leg nice and straight with our toes and our kneecap facing the ceiling. So that way everything is in alignment. We have 20 more seconds with the circle in this direction. You're going to build up endurance. So take as many breaks as you need. Play with spreading your toes and pointing your toes at different parts of the circle so that you can really work all the tendons and ligaments in your foot. Now go the other way for a minute. We're going to be here for another minute as we make that circle. You can also have your opposite foot flexed, whatever is comfortable for you. And then you just really want to try to make sure that you're keeping this 90-degree knee bend, and hip bend. We have 40 more seconds in this direction. It doesn't matter what direction you start with. Yeah, it's pretty challenging. You're going to feel things start to turn on in your body that you probably haven't felt before. And the corrective exercise is really to help your body transfer energy through the joints, because energy moves through one foot, through the back of the leg, crossing through the hip, and then out the opposite temple and opposite hands. This is really good for us to do. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and then now we have flex and point. And by now, you should definitely be feeling that front shin muscle. When we develop this muscle, it really helps us going upstairs, prevents injuries, helps us from tripping, because sometimes these lower leg muscles get real lazy because of shoes or if we sit a lot. So this is going to really help you with like daily life stuff. Now this hip flexor, oh my gosh, we are working so hard in the hip with all the small muscles just to maintain this position. Is not comfortable. So you can take breaks if you need to. I'm not going to take a break. We got 15 more seconds, and then we're actually going to be able to use that hip in the next exercise. Hang in there, hang in there, hang in there. In 5, 4, 3, 2. Now hold the flex. This is really hard. Now we're moving from the hip flexor. So, oh my goodness, it feels like my leg weighs so much. Lots of work right here. So you want to maintain that flexed foot in the ankle. You want to maintain the 90-degree knee, and then you want to move from that hip flexor. This is pure hip function right here. Restoring the function of the pelvis. This is going to make all your other exercises so much easier. Whew. We got this, we got this. 20 more seconds. Easy peasy. You just want to keep your back nice and still. So if you can't go all the way down, that's okay. Keep your back flat on the floor. In 5, 4, 3, 2, and oh, we did it, we did it, we did it. So you can, oops, we can shake it out. Hi, hi. Coco is going to be 15 in October. You can't say no to him. And then this is Willow. They're the originals. They do a lot of things together. Okay, Are you ready? So we're gonna bring that leg up and start your circle. We have 1 minute of a circle. Find that 90-degree hip, 90-degree knee. You wanna keep your shin nice and still as you're doing this. You can flex your bottom foot if you want. We just wanna make sure that your knee and your toes are facing the ceiling of this non-working leg. 30 more seconds. And what's gonna happen is your dominant muscles are gonna start to take over. So you really wanna make sure that you find the symmetrical position, because that's what we're training. Just like functional, basic stuff. And our lifestyle, like whatever our repetitive moments are, those muscle groups are gonna take over. So you really wanna be aware that you're keeping the form. Now go the other way for a minute. So really feel that your kneecap and your shin are facing the ceiling. Your thigh is facing your shoulder. Woo! You're in parallel. Don't let yourself turn out like a ballerina. Very, very challenging. My left leg is a lot weaker than my right leg. 30 more seconds here, and then we're gonna have flex and point. So remember, you can take breaks. Totally take a break if it gets to be too much. And I'd rather you not bend this opposite leg, because that's gonna change the dynamic in the hip. Just take a break if you need to. Because here we're working with the opposite hip, not in flexion, while this one is. Okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, and flex and point. By now, this front shin muscle, tibialis anterior, you should really be able to sense the shape of it. It kind of is bulbous, closer to your knee, and then almost like no sensation in the front of your shin, or just a very long sensation. We got this. Hang on to that hip flexor. Notice that you're staying in parallel. 30 more seconds. Really try to feel that flex and point through the ankle as best you can. This is really challenging, I know. We got 10 more seconds. We can do it, we can do it, we can do it in 5, 4, 3, 2, and then hold your flex. And now it's the hip flexor. So really do your best to keep the ankle stiff, your knee bent, and just move from the hip flexor. Keep your abs pressing down. You don't want your back to feel like a seesaw and come off the floor when your heel touches down. You want to try to feel flat in your stomach and in your back the whole time. Less than 30 seconds. And I always pretend I'm a toy soldier. We're really trying to keep that parallel position. No turnout at all. No ballerina legs. 10 seconds. Everything else is gonna be pretty pleasant. I feel like this is like the worst one. But it's so worth it. Okay, we did it. That was 4 minutes, congratulations. Now, for the band segment, we're gonna do 2 different exercises. So the first exercise, you can grab a yoga block, a toilet paper roll, or paper towels. You just want something that you can press your ankles against, and then you want to have a strong band. So if you have the plastic bands, that's great. Cloth, great too. You just want to have it heavy, because this really isn't about moving, and that's what's going to allow us to access the muscles that are close to the bone. So this first one, we're going to set the timer for 4 minutes again. So press your ankles against the toilet paper as you press your knees apart. so the timer's on. So what happens here is we want to feel that our pelvis is level. We don't want to tilt our pelvis up to the ceiling or have it arched or have our tailbone arched into the floor. And when you do this, if you can press your ankles in at the same time that you press your knees apart, eventually you're gonna feel small muscles that are horizontal at the bottom of your pelvis and at the very innermost part of your thigh bone where it attaches to your pelvis. And so we have a slow 3-second press and a slow 3-second release. And when you do this, you do want to be looking at the ceiling so that your neck is in alignment. Because what's going to happen here is your pelvis has a relationship with your shoulder. And if your shoulders are out of whack because your pelvis is out of whack, that actually pulls on muscles that attach to the bottom of your skull, which causes headaches and a stiff neck. So here, when you're doing this exercise, you can take a little peek if I gesture something, but really try to look at the ceiling the whole time and see if you can start to visualize short horizontal muscles at the bottom of your butt where your hamstrings connect. And you want to feel that all your other body parts are relaxed. You will feel your hip flexors a little bit, like I can feel them popping up and getting a little bit ropey, but I'm not tilting my tailbone up to the ceiling, right? Can you see that difference if you take a peek? And then I'm not arching my back either. I'm really just finding that middle ground of feeling that where my hip bones are and where my pubis is, you have a joint here where your pubes are. I like to pretend that this is a triangle facing the ceiling. And so that position might mean that you unweight a little bit in your back, but you're not necessarily arching. The pelvis is in neutral. It's not tilted to the ceiling, mashing your back into the floor, and your pelvis isn't tilted into the floor, having your back arched. It's in a mid position. We have 1 minute and 13 seconds left. And so remember, you press in with your ankles as you press your knees apart, and you're gonna start to feel muscles in the back side of your butt. Your butt is on the back side. The highest portion of your thigh muscles on the back side and the bottom of your butt. If you feel too much work in your abs or too much work in your back, like if you feel the muscles along your spine, relax. Just take a few seconds to relax. You may feel your back in a broadening sensation because there's muscles that attach your back on your back and your pelvis. So you might just be adjusting some stuff. Almost there, we got 15 seconds. So we got that 3-second press and relax. Feeling the ankles press in as the knees separate. Feeling those muscles on the back side of the pelvis. Good job. Now the next exercise, we are just going to hold the static. The static hold is what this is called. So we don't have our toilet paper, but we do have the band. And we're gonna find a neutral position with our pelvis. So first, before you do that, I want you to arch. So it's like you're puncturing your tailbone into the floor. And then I want you to tuck so that you're pressing your back into the floor. Then I want you to try to find the medium position where you feel like your sit bones, these little knobs at the bottom of your pelvis, are actually lengthening towards your heels, right? They're right here at the bottom. Have your toes face forward and start with your feet far enough apart for like an imaginary 1.5 feet to fit in between your real feet. Because now lucky us, timer's on for 4 minutes. So what we're gonna do is just hold the tension of pressing our thighs apart. Now, when you watch this video over and over and over again, I want you to play around with some stuff. Right now, I can feel that my back has more pressure into it, where I have a slight pelvic tilt, ever so slight. But what I'm feeling is the sticks of my thigh bones, almost like the backside, I can feel those muscles engage to where I can really visualize the stick shape of the pelvis, of the thigh bone. So now what I want to do is I'm gonna like reach my tailbone away to now make sure that those sit bones are going down towards my heels. So now my pelvis is technically in neutral. Before it was in a little bit of a tuck. My low back is off the floor, but I'm not purposely arching it. I don't feel my muscles active in my back right now at all. What this has done for me is made more tension on the outside. So we have muscles that attach at the center of our pelvis across the cheek that makes up the cheek and attaches onto the side of the thigh muscle. So you're gonna start to feel these like diagonal pulls, and it's so good for us. The more our butt knows how to squeeze, when you go do your other exercise stuff, you're not gonna have as much pressure on your knees or your low back, because your pelvis and your butt are gonna know exactly what to do. And a lot of the problems that we have these days with our knees and our low back are because the glutes are overstretched and we don't have as much of a neurological connection, a mind-body connection, because we sit so much. So this is really gonna turn stuff on for you. Now we're past the halfway mark. So if you have to take a break, you can totally take a break. Our goal here though is that we stay engaged for the whole 4 minutes. Sometimes you'll think you're engaged and your thighs are almost touching each other. So really make sure that you're pressing into your band. Whew. Yeah, so now you have a joint, right? So you have the triangle shape of your pelvis. Then you have the cup shape of your hip bone, right? Then you have the stick of your thigh. So what I just felt was a little bit of a stretch in that joint. This joint is supposed to move up and down on each side when we walk. And a lot of times that joint gets jammed and it doesn't move. So when our joints get jammed, the joint above, which is the lumbar spine, and the joint below, which is the knee, take up the rest of that movement. And they're not designed for that much movement. So while you're here, you're gonna start to feel an opening in the joint. Don't be worried about that. Whew, 30 more seconds. It starts to really feel like a broadening and a sinking into the floor in the pelvis. We're good, we're good, we're good. 20 more seconds. I'm shaking. Woo, my inner thighs are a little... We got this, we got this. 10 seconds. So easy, we totally have this. Don't even worry about it. In 2 and 1. Oh, we did it, we did it, we did it. Good job. It's terrible. Ugh. Okay, the glutes are on. The next exercise we have is just 1 minute. And we are going to very gently rock our hips forward and backward. So our feet are in our hip distance apart, toes facing forward. And for 1 minute, I want you to reach your tailbone into the floor, find neutral, and then reach your tailbone up to the ceiling and find neutral. You're just gonna go back and forth. You can have your arms by your side or your arms out to a T. And I want you to notice how your body shifts up and down. So you're using your pelvis to stretch all the muscles along your spine all the way up to your head. I'm in extension right now, neutral, and flexion, a tuck. Neutral, driving the tailbone down into the floor, neutral, and then now driving the tailbone up to the ceiling. And it's very minimal so that we're just using the hip flexors to reach and then just the glutes to tilt to the ceiling. And that was already a minute. The next exercise, we're gonna take both of our legs to external rotation. We're gonna go for 1 minute, so have your feet set up the same. And then you're gonna slowly externally rotate both of your hips, letting your feet go to the side edge of your feet. And then come back to neutral. So what you wanna notice here is that the feet and the knees are just along for the ride, and your thigh is the mover. And I want you to notice how symmetrical you are. So if one leg is higher off the floor than the other, don't let the other one go down that low, make it match. Because this is a time that we're working symmetry in the body to bring it into balance. And then you can notice what happens that when you let the legs go out to the side, you might feel your hips kind of rock forward. And then when you bring the legs back to neutral, you might feel that your pelvis rocks towards the ceiling. That was our minute, but let's just do one more externally rotating and then closing. Awesome. Then we're gonna do a vacuum. So a vacuum is a bodybuilding exercise, but we're gonna use it to stretch out this portion of your lumbar spine. So in a vacuum, we're gonna do 5 of these. What happens is you take a big inhale, you take a big exhale, get all the air out of your body. Once you have your exhale, you suck in your stomach up to your ribs and you hold your breath as long as you can. Now that already made me spasm all on my back. So it's kind of like your breath and your transverse abdominals stretch all those back muscles that can get tight and pinch nerves and then send radiating pain down from the lumbar spine through your sciatic, all kind of those kind of sensations. So we're gonna do 5. You don't have to do them exactly with my breath because our lungs are different sizes, but you're gonna go for 5, okay? So big inhale, big exhale. All the air's out of your body. Now suck in your stomach. So that was 1. You get the idea, right? Get all the air out. Oops, don't inhale. Keep all the air out of your body, then suck in your stomach. Three more. That one's really starting to stretch here, but on the back side, that one was pretty intense. 2 more. One more. Good job. Now we're gonna move into the shoulder. So we're gonna put the feet together. You're gonna press your hands together. We're gonna do this for a minute. We're gonna take our arms overhead, but I want you to exhale when you take your arms overhead, because that's gonna help you stretch the back side of your body more. If you inhale as you go overhead, you see what happens? We don't really get the stretch. We're just moving back and forth on the joints, and this is really to help you open up the back side of your body. Okay, how cute is she? She's the runt of the litter. This is Daisy. This is the baby. All right, 1 minute. Exhale as you go overhead. Press your feet together and your hands together. When you press your feet together, you're gonna support your knees and your hips. And when you press your hands together, you're gonna engage your tricep to keep the elbows straight, because this is a shoulder exercise. If you let your elbow go straight, you won't hit the shoulders as well. Your range of motion does not matter. It matters that you have your feet pressed together and your hands pressed together, and you do your best to exhale as you go overhead so that the front of your body stays stiff to allow the back of your body to open up. So, so good. You got this. You're doing it for a minute. Exhale as you go overhead. All right, that was a minute. Now we're gonna open up the chest. So what we're gonna do is get into a sideline 90-90 position. So what I'm gonna do, I'm sorry, Bubba, we're gonna come over here now. So I'm gonna face this way. I'm gonna go through here. So you wanna get your legs in a 90-degree angle and your knees in a 90-degree angle, and uncomfortably stack yourself on your shoulder as best you can. Hold on to your top leg, and I'm gonna put this on for a minute and 10 seconds because I wanna give you time to get into position. So, hold on to the top, have your head down, palm facing forward, let your shoulder blade wedge against your spine, and then now let your chest rotate you open. You can turn your head. Now the goal here is that your legs stay stacked so your hips don't shift with you. You stay perfectly stacked in your hip, and you allow gravity to open up your chest. But the rule is, if your hand doesn't touch the floor, if your shoulder doesn't touch the floor, your hand is not allowed to touch the floor. So don't put your hand down if your shoulder isn't touching. So that way gravity can help open up your chest muscles. We're here for a minute. Keep those legs stacked. Turn your head as much as you can. Breathe. That was a minute. Now for me, if you know about my neck stuff, I like to be really soft and gentle with my neck, and so I actually help my head move back to center by turning it with my hands. So now we're gonna go the other way. Got our sideline 90-90. Your bottom hand is on top of your knee. Wedge your shoulder blade against your spine, and then rotate in your chest. Let gravity pull you open. If your shoulder doesn't touch the floor, neither does your hand. So, so good. I like to say that I'm listening to the floor with my ear. That really helps me. So you may spasm. We're really opening up the intercostals, which are the muscles between the ribs, in the upper quadrant of your rib cage. Stretching out the neck, stretching out the hips and the lumbar spine, everything. This has really helped me in my neck.
And when you have these exercises memorized, you can totally hold these stretches for longer. I've done that when I've like pulled a muscle, like I'll hold this position for 5 minutes. Okay, our timer's going off. So like I said, I like to manually move my head. Awesome. Okay, then roll onto your back. And then, so we're gonna come down to all fours. And you're gonna start with a tuck. Now here in the tuck, I want you to keep your upper body nice and still. And then I want you to spread your sit bones apart, those bottom of the pelvic bones. Tilt your tailbone to the ceiling and then roll through your lumbar spine, your ribs, pinch your shoulders together and then lift your head. Now keep your upper body where it is. Start with the tailbone, tuck the tailbone under, squeeze those bottom butt bones together, pull your stomach in and up, round through your ribs and your shoulders, and then drop your head. Now leave your upper body where it is. Start with the tailbone again. So what you're doing here is really letting your vertebra move as close to as one at a time as possible in both directions. And the amount of focus that you have to move one part of your body at a time is really going to build the mind-body connection. So the head is down, that means we spread your butt cheeks apart. I always say air out your butt cheeks. Tilt your tailbone to the ceiling, arch your back, arch your ribs, pinch your shoulders, stretch your throat. Keep the upper body there. Squeeze your butt cheeks together, pull the tailbone under, pull your stomach up and in, round through your ribs, your shoulders, let your head hang. Let's do 2 more. Keep the upper body nice and stiff, spread your sit bones, arch the back, arch your ribs, pinch your shoulders, lift your head, stretch your throat, keep that there. Tuck the tailbone, round the low back, round your ribs, round your shoulders, and then finally drop your head. Now, one more thing, we are going to set your spine with bird dog. This is going to connect right and left hemisphere and strengthen the deep core muscles. So we're going to be in the all fours. You're going to stretch your right arm and your left leg up level with your spine. Now stretch them and squeeze for 5, 4, I like the thumbs up, 3, 2, 1. Bend, but don't change your back or touch down. Stretch and hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bend and out for 3, 2, 3. Abs tight. 4 and 5. Bend. Notice how the tailbone and head are on the same level for 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more. Bending and extending for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then we're going to do the same thing with the left hand and the right leg. Stretch and fold, hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You want to keep your shoulders and your hips square to the floor for 4, 2, no sinking, 3, 4, 5. Bend and stretch for 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bend. Now we got number 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bend. One more out for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And that is your corrective exercise. Good job.